I'm Gareth Owson, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the selling of add-on services. When you've already started working with a client and you're down that pathway of solving the problems that they have, how do you seed into the conversation doing more work with that client? It's the A in Lemonade, it's add-on services. As we start today's episode, I want to address what is probably the most common misconception around selling add-on services or upsell services with clients. And this comes back to, maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't, you might be hearing this for the first time, but I live in this world where for the last 10 or 12 years, there have been these internet marketing gurus that will talk about the bump upsell or the nudge to buy something else after somebody has bought that initial service or that initial product from you. And I want to just address that that's not what this episode is about. In fact, it's not what the whole philosophy of Solopreneur or Lemonade Plan is all about. So if you have tuned into this episode to hear about the bumped upsell or the add-on deal or the one-time offer, that's not what this episode is about. This episode is about getting into the mindset of being able to solve in a deeper way the challenges, the real problems that your clients have, doing it in an ethical way, doing it in a way that builds rapport and builds trust with them and gets them and you the outcomes that you're both looking for. The big problem that we face when we're working with our clients as experts is what I would describe as the iceberg problem. And what I mean by that is that, just like in the Titanic story, the iceberg at the very top of it is much, much smaller than what's underneath the surface. And as experts in our fields, when a lead comes into our life and we're having a conversation with them about the problems that they think they have, that they've brought to us, generally speaking, we can pick through those problems and see that there are actually many more underlying issues that they might be having. And thinking about where that relationship might go beyond the initial sale to a successful outcome for you and the client, this comes down to a mindset challenge. Are you in the camp of, I'll do what the client has asked me to do and wants me to solve for them by the letter of what they're asking for and what they're looking to solve? Or are you in the mindset camp of being as open and as honest with them and as complete with them, if you like, about helping them to see and to identify and to think about solving those wider problems, those wider challenges that they have? So have this in mind, the iceberg problem and the choice that you can make when you have that conversation with a client. By the end of this episode, I'd very much like you to think more about being in the camp of that honesty and that bringing things up with them earlier in the process and having that clarity and building that trust and building that rapport with them such that you can start to almost frame a schedule of work that goes beyond that initial piece that you do with them, perhaps in building blocks. Outside of your professional life and how you work with your clients, you might have encountered something like this mindset dilemma when it comes to getting things done in your home and hiring tradespeople to solve problems that you have in your home. I live in a house that's 125 years old, fell in love with the romantic idea of buying an old townhouse with high ceilings, probably 20 years ago when we bought this house. And if you've ever had that romantic feeling in your mind, I'd encourage you to definitely think twice before you do so, because the problem with old houses is that stuff goes wrong with them. When we moved in, we knew that it needed a whole new roof putting on. That's kind of what we bought into when we bought this house. 15 years after hiring somebody to repair our roof, there were problems that were going wrong with it. We have two parts of our roof, one that is over a kitchen extension and one that is sort of the main roof. And our kitchen extension roof that had only gone in, I think, 13 or 14 years before, started leaking. And second time around, when we were hiring roofers, we did a lot more research and a lot more diligence into what that might look like. And we ended up going with somebody who is a really reputable local roofing company who charged a lot more than some of the alternatives. But the reason I liked them as a provider is that they were asking questions about the wider picture of what we wanted to do with the house as we move forward, and brought to our attention other challenges that we might face with our main roof. Now, they knew that that was going to be a lot more of an expensive conversation to do the entire main roof and sort of side kitchen roof in one fell swoop. But the fact that the owner of this company who'd come out to quote for us was open and honest enough to have that dialogue with me about a wider discussion, but quote for the specific piece that I was interested in, and start to seed some of the conversations about the bigger roof, that really built trust and rapport with me. I didn't go ahead and do the main roof. That was going to be a significantly more expensive undertaking. But what that did was it built a level of trust from me to him and to his team that they had my wider interests in mind, that whilst they were going to fix the initial leaky roof above our kitchen, that somewhere down the pathway we'd need to think about and we'd need to budget for the bigger roof experience. You'll probably had that conversation with other tradespeople that have come into your house, plumbers, electricians. Think about it in the context of if you're not a tradesperson and you're serving in a B2B environment, or you are working with patients, or you've got other expertise. Just think about how that relationship that I had with the roofing company and how honest they were there has also wider meanings for how you work with your clients. There are a lot of either overworked and or underpaid generalists that are out there. You'll probably experience that they're in the domain that you work in, who never seem to be able to get the traction that they're looking for as specialists and experts in their field, because they've gone down that pathway of not having difficult conversations with prospects, or not seeding into conversations with first-time clients the wider picture of helping those clients to solve the bigger problems that they have. How can you recognize that you're falling into this impoverished generalist or underpaid generalist pathway? Well, if any of these things have happened to you, then these are sort of danger signals that you should be looking out for. Client comes to you with a really specific problem that they feel that solving that problem would help them to address the wider issues that they have. You go and solve that really specific problem, but in your heart of hearts and knowing based on expertise of working with other clients like them, you know that actually somewhere down the line, very soon down the line perhaps, solving that initial problem will just have a chain reaction or a knock-on effect to then bringing up whatever the next problem is. I'll give you an example from my business. I work with clients on process and systems automation in their business. It's the whole concept around Lemonade, leads through to endorsements. And I help clients to establish processes using CRM, marketing automation, follow-up nurture marketing that manage those 8 processes in their business. Having those 8 steps in my process helps me to have conversations across the entire piece with clients. However, I do know of generalists that are out there in my space who will happily solve the problem of just one of those pieces of the jigsaw. And if we take the classic one where perhaps even in your business, people will say, I'm not getting enough leads in my business in order to run a successful business, or I feel like I'm meeting with too many people and they're not converting into clients for me. There are some people that will offer those type of services out there without thinking or without offering or without raising to their clients the impact of the bigger picture of doing some of these kind of things. So it's all very well being, say, for example, a Google AdWords consultant or a Facebook ads consultant or a social media consultant who helps people to get more eyeballs on their stuff, on their landing pages, on opt-ins, onto their list. But if then you're not having the conversation with your clients about what happens once that has taken place, once you've got that lead, then you're going to find that you're still in the same situation that you were, not converting as many clients, but with the expense of having paid money for ads and to get those eyeballs onto your content. Those people that operate just purely in that narrow space as social media marketers or ads consultants need to be thinking about a picture that comes further down the line, building specialisms in the ongoing relationship that they're having. That's very specific to marketing, but that's just an example from my world. I see a lot of people that will work in those spaces and end up just creating problems further down the line that either they shy away from and don't help a client to address and don't get paid for addressing those issues, or if they don't have the confidence to raise these issues with the client and that this will happen, client has this expectation that I'm going to turn my business into converting more people and building and making more sales. And so consultant who hasn't got the confidence to talk about that kind of thing sets up those things for them, but without charging them for it. So they're not only overworked and underpaid, but they're feeling frustrated that their clients have expectations that are unmanageable, that aren't within what they originally planned to do with them. You can probably think of the context in your world. If not in your business, then you'll have, in inverted commas, competition that's out there that's pitching things where you think, nah, that's not going to work because X, Y, or Z is missing. Worse than that is another scenario where you do what the client has asked you to do and they're pretty happy with that work, but then there's a knock-on effect that, oh, I've got too many leads, I need to do something else, or I've solved this problem and now this other one has come up because I'm getting too busy or I'm doing this, that, or the other. Client goes and hires somebody else to solve that problem when actually that second problem is still in your skill set. It's still in your wheelhouse to be able to solve that for them. And you know that when that happens, and when you hear that from the client that you've worked with, you just know only too well that the client's going to end up feeling frustrated with that second provider. And you know full well that you'd have been able to do that more effectively. So if we wind it back, some of the scenarios that we talk about there, there's a huge reason to be upfront, to be honest, and to have these open conversations with your clients as early in the process as you can do. I talk about starting wide and going narrower. So when you're having conversations or you're seeding ideas with clients, try and get them to start to think about bigger picture first and help you to understand what is going on in their bigger picture first, and then narrow in on specific problems that you can help them solve, perhaps even finding a way to set a priority list of going through some of those problems that they face or some of those actions that they can take to address some of those problems. Even bring up to them that by solving this particular issue that you're experiencing now, Mr. or Mrs. Client, this next challenge will come further down the line that you'll need to address. Classic one in my world is the leads to clients to referrals picture. It's all very well having leads in your business, but if you're unable to convert them into clients, you're basically just paying for leads that you're unable to convert. Or having those clients that you can't deliver the work for, that they become delighted about, that they then give you the reviews or the testimonials. Or in this particular subject that we're talking about today, the add-on services, signing a client for the first time for something very specific that they see as a problem in their world, but not then being upfront and honest with them enough that there will be something that they'll need to look at somewhere down the line in order to solve either another part of the problem that they're experiencing now or a knock-on problem that they'll experience further down the line. If you don't do that, we're not going to get to that end result that we're looking for, the endorsement, the delighted client. Remember one of those three things. Are they going to give you a nice review? The first R. Are they going to give you a nice referral to somebody else? The second R. Or are they going to hire you somewhere further down the line in some sort of repeat sale scenario? So when we're talking about the add-on services, we're thinking about that problem that they've come to or knock-on problems that are associated with it. How do we sow the seeds in that client's mind that there will be other things that they'll need to do in order to get the result that they're looking for, to solve those problems that they have. So as experts at what we do, we have this ability, this crystal ball, to be able to see what's likely to be coming down the pathway. And if we can't immediately see it when a lead expresses interest in us or when we have that first conversation with us, it's our duty, it's our responsibility to ask the right type of framing questions to be able to draw out from them where they want to go. Once this immediate problem is solved, what does the bigger picture look like? We get into running businesses on our own, these solopreneur businesses, because we have this zone of genius that we can help people with, where perhaps it wasn't recognized when we were working in a corporate environment, or because we've looked at ways that we can run that as our own business more flexibly, more profitably, and with more freedom. It becomes frustrating if you end up in this situation where you're underserving clients and not helping them to solve the bigger problem that you've identified that perhaps they haven't, or that they identified down the pathway, and build this expectation that because they've hired you for this one thing, you're also going to solve these other 2 or 3 things as well, in order that they're happy that their life or their business or whatever it is you're helping them with has been transformed and the problems have gone away, even if the first conversation that you had with them was around something that was very specific. Remember that clients don't judge you based on what you've quoted them, but will judge you based on whether their problem or problems have been resolved, and that's their perception thing. So we have this duty, we have this responsibility to have these open and honest conversations with our clients early on. Now, does that mean that we need to solve every single problem ourselves that they come to us with? Or is there another pathway? What I mean by this is, when you've had these conversations with the client and it really suits your zone of experience to be able to help them with this specific problem, but you've identified other things that will come up along the way or other problems that they might encounter down the way, you've then got this decision to make. Do you build a broader skill set and a broader base of services that you can offer a client by knowing what some of these other challenges are that you can help solve or that they need to have solved? Or do you build up a network of other experts that you trust and have mutual trust in one another to be able to cross-refer clients to? I fall into the latter category, but don't let that sway you that you shouldn't think about the bigger picture with your clients, that when you have solved something that's very narrow within your zone of expertise with them, is there a way that you can widen what you do with that client yourself? Perhaps not quite as well as what you're amazing at, but once you've built that trust and rapport with that client and they enjoy working with you, is you performing at 70 or 80% of your zone of expertise on something different, equally valuable to them to widen that. So once you've got over this challenge of not bringing up wider issues that they'll face and problems that they need to solve, then have that thought process of, right, okay, what's my strategy for my business in terms of being able to solve those wider problems? Do I build a wider skill set across those other areas, or do I build a network of trusted associates that I can start seeding into conversations with clients and who I can refer them to? Some food for thought there in terms of your business delivery strategy, if you like. So you probably clicked on this episode thinking you'd find ways to do one-time offers and bump upsells for your products or services. But actually, we've gone down a very different and very eye-opening sort of process area to get you to think more in line of this being a mindset rather than something that's mechanical or a technical process to do things. At the end of the day, you've got a duty to solve your clients' problems that you can help with. And you've got a duty sort of within the realms of your skill set to at least broach those areas by way of helping them and making sales on your part to serve your client to do them. In this overall context, being forewarned is definitely being forearmed in this process. Having the early conversations with your clients will definitely build more trust and rapport with them. It will make you feel like more of an honest provider of services to them, and it will definitely open the door with the right types of clients to be able to have those honest, those open conversations that they perhaps wouldn't have had with you had you just been very black and white with presenting a proposal with what they to solve what they originally came to you as a problem. It also helps you to not fall into this trap of expectation creep or scope creep. We talked about how if somebody in their own mind has a problem that they want to resolve, and then as you start to do the work to resolve that, it uncovers other issues that they have. How they judge that those problems have been solved is entirely up to them, unless you help them to frame that, and unless you are bringing that up with them by asking intelligent questions, by building up a wider picture. If you do that, then you're in control. If you don't do that, then they're in control of what those expectations of those results are. So a pretty deep discussion today around what add-on services are and what your clients have an expectation of from you. So add-on services are a key part of those 8 processes in your business, the lemonade processes in your sales and marketing. If you're intrigued by where you could take this and what you might need to think about in your own business, then I'd encourage you to go to solopreneur.com/planner. That's PLANNER, solopreneur.com/planner. And you, within 20 minutes, answering a few questions that are in there, mostly multi-choice, you'll be able to get back a detailed plan that takes those 8 steps in the process in the context of your business and will help you build a plan around that. You can also find the episode notes for this show. If you go to solopreneur.com/EP14, you'll find more on this topic and more resources on that page there. On the next episode, we'll be talking about how we deliver these services to our clients, which is the penultimate step before we ask for that nice referral, that nice review. So I'll see you on the next episode.